Hi, I'm Chuck Chvala, former Senate Majority Leader.
And I'm Scott Jensen, former Assembly Speaker.
And we're the Insiders. And Scott, we've been off for a while. So summer break is over. The Insiders are back. People can get both sides of the issue in one spot. How are you feeling about that?
I'm glad to be back at it.
All right. Well, Robin Vos looks like he's doubling down on the big lie and spending $680,000 of taxpayer money. Not that I feel strongly about it. What's your take on this, and what are the political consequences?
I'm guessing you do have some strong feelings about this. You know, the polling shows that the number one issue right now among Republicans in Wisconsin is election integrity, but it's also on the top 3 issue for independents. There's a lot of people around the state who are unsettled and have questions after the last set of elections. There's lots of rumors that have gone around. So what I think the speaker's trying to do here is he's pulled together a strong team that includes the former Supreme Court justice and some experienced investigators to sift through all the things that happened in the last election to see which ones are concerning and which ones are not, what's true and what is not as true, and then come back with recommendations for the legislature to consider, and so that people feel that their trust has been restored before we head off to the next set of elections in 2022. I think that's worth the amount of money they're spending on it. There's a great deal of distrust out there. And if for this amount of money, we can put those fears to rest and have an election that people have faith in 2022, I think it's worth it.
My goodness. The only people who are spreading rumors about a problem are Republican legislators and Republicans at the national level. Every one of those guys knows there is nothing there. In fact, Robin Vos is only doing this because Donald Trump is on his butt. There was a rally at the Capitol where they were saying, get rid of Robin Vos. And why? Because the Republican Party has this disastrous split where there are people who just aren't willing to accept the facts. Even Robin Vos has acknowledged that, Donald Trump lost. Even Ron Johnson was quoted recently as saying, yeah, the Republicans in the state won, but Trump lost. He just lost. Come on, $680,000. There isn't a dime's worth of value in what's being looked at here. And Gableman is looking like a bit of a conspiracy theorist. Doesn't this, Scott, really just cause people problems for the Republicans with the suburbs, and particularly with women in the suburbs who know better? The only reason that there are doubts is because the doubts have been sown by legislators themselves, not because anybody else thinks there's a problem. And legislators are smart enough to know these ballots were counted not once, but twice, maybe even 3 times. And there's an audit being done by the very well-respected and nonpartisan Audit Bureau. There's absolutely no need for this. So let's spend $1 million when we know there's no need for it. This is not looking good for Robin Vos and the Republicans.
Well, I think they're doing their best to try to answer the questions that people have about the last elections. And I think if you look at the polling, it shows that most people believe that Joe Biden won in Wisconsin, but they have questions about what went on. I mean, and a lot of it wouldn't be sort of fraud, but rather like, what was all that voting in the park, at democracy in the park, voting in Dane County? No other county did that. Why were some things handled in one way in one county and a different way in the other? People want uniformity across the elections. What was the deal with the Zucker bucks and the money that went to all those different communities? My hope is that when they're done, they'll have answered those questions for people, made some recommendations to tweak things a little bit to increase election security, and then the next election cycle, we won't have these questions. That's what I think they're trying to accomplish.
That's not what they're trying to accomplish. And you know that, Scott. I mean, every time we talk about this topic, and we've discussed it a couple of times, you do the right thing. You point to, well, there are some new things happening. There was some lack of uniformity. By the way, of course, there's going to be differences. There will not be uniformity because what works in a town that has 800 people in the whole town does not work in a city like Milwaukee that has 600,000 people. But there are no legitimate questions to be asked. And yet this is being done because, as you know, the Republicans, some of them are calling for a forensic audit. And actually, Gableman says he's going to do a forensic audit. That is not a question about whether there was voting in the park. And by the way, there was not any voting in the park. There was simply collection of ballots. It was a way to make sure that people had an easy way of getting their ballots collected. To have one drop box in a community that has 1,500 people and one drop box in a community that has hundreds of thousands of residents is clearly not right. That is, uniformity does not mean fairness. What people want is everybody to have a chance to vote and to make sure that the votes are counted. And that's what we have. Nobody is suggesting that there's really any problem in Wisconsin. other than Republican legislators responding to the requirements of their overlord, Donald Trump. I think this is going to create some real problems for the Republicans going forward. They have the party that's based in reality, the economic conservatives, the people who care deeply about abortion, maybe some gun rights people. And then there's this lunatic fringe, and that's what it is. And you're going to have to make a choice at some point in your party, Scott. And I think if you go with the fringe, which is what this kind of thing, this ridiculous expenditure of $680,000 does, I think you lose a lot of those suburban women.
Well, we'll see with that, but clearly we're just not suffering any summer slump here. We're right back at it. We'll get a chance to talk next week.
See you next time.